Hi guys, welcome to Math Today. So for Math Today, we're going to be talking about rounding. Our learning target is I can round a multi-digit number to the nearest given place value. So that's a lot of words and it's kind of confusing. So let's look at it. What does multi-digit mean? Well, I know what digit is. It's a part of a number, right? It's that one little number all by itself. So a multi-digit number means it has multiple digits. 23 is an example. 678 is an example. 1,000 is also going to be an example. Okay, not the number one though. One is only one digit, so that doesn't work, okay? So that's what multi-digit means. And then I need to round it to the nearest given place value, meaning somebody's gonna tell me a place value. The ones, the tens, the thousands, and so on. And I'm gonna round it to whatever they tell me to round it to, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna clear my drawings, and we're gonna start looking at how to round, okay? So our learning target is always gonna be at the top of our slide. So if you forget what you're doing, it's right there for you. Again, we're rounding multi-digit numbers to the nearest given place value. In order to do that though, I have to know my place value. I have to know where my tens and my hundreds place are, and so on. So I want you to try to do this. Go ahead, pause when you need to. I'm gonna go quick, but you need to pause me then if you're not caught up. Go ahead and go ahead and ask yourself, what digit is in the tens place in the number 45? Hopefully you said the 4. What digit, I can't speak today, what digit is in the tens place in 1,590? Hopefully you said the 9. Same thing here, only Ms. Reinheimer put the comma in the wrong place, but it's still, what is the 10, which digit is in the tens place? Hopefully you said the 2. Now we're moving down to the hundreds place. Same thing, pause as needed. I'm gonna go quick. The 6 is in the hundreds place. Which one here is in the hundreds place? Which digit? Hopefully you said the 5. Which digit here is in the hundreds place? Hopefully you said the 3. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next. Okay, moving on. Same thing, but with the thousands place. Go ahead, pause me if you need to. Which one is in the thousands place? Hopefully you said the 6. Here, hopefully you said the 9. And here, hopefully you said the 4. This one is the most tricky, okay? But just to kind of refresh your brain. Find the hundred thousands place. Okay, pause if you haven't already. And hopefully you said the 6. Clear my drawings and take us to the next page. At any point, if I am moving too fast, guess what you can do? You can pause me and go back and re-listen. You could also just pause me as you go, so that way I don't get too far ahead of you, okay? So, how do I round? Well, there's 4 steps, okay? I'm gonna find the place value, the place that I'm supposed to round to. So if I'm rounding to the tens place, I'm gonna find the tens place. And then I'm gonna look at its neighbor to the left. So which direction is left? Well, it's this way, okay? And I'm just gonna look to the one right next to it. I'm not gonna look way down the line if it's a big number. I'm just gonna look at the one right next to it, okay? And then I am going to decide, is it 4 or less or 5 or more? If it's 4 or less, I'm gonna let it rest, meaning I'm gonna leave whatever place value number I'm looking at. So if I'm looking in the tens place and it happens to be let's say the digit in the tens place is a 2, and the one next to it is also a 2, because that's the one that decides, its neighbor decides, then I'm gonna let it rest, I'm gonna leave it at a 2, okay? If, again, in the tens place, I have a 2, and the digit next to it, which is the one that determines its neighbor, is a 5, I'm gonna raise the digit 2 to a 3. I'm gonna up it by 1. Right now, that sounds really confusing, but it will make sense in a moment. So what I would suggest doing is writing this down if you haven't already, and please feel free to pause me so you can write it. And then my last step is turning every other number after that place value into a 0. So if it comes before, so if I have the number So you have the number 1,358, okay? So I'm working in the tens place in this example, right? So every number after this digit, 5, would turn into a 0 once I've rounded, okay? Go ahead, again, pause and write if you haven't already. Okay, I'm moving on. So hopefully you have that written down. You will need it. Okay, so again, I do have my learning target up at the top, and I'm going to round multi-digit numbers, by a given place value. So first I need to figure out what the place value is. I do have my little cheat sheet over here to help me. You should have yours that you can use then during all of today's lesson, okay? So I'm going to do an example first, and I just want you to watch, okay? That's your job, watching, okay? So I need to find the place value. Well, where am I supposed to round it to? The tens place. So I'm going to find the tens. Boop, done. Step 1, done. Step 2, I'm going to look at its neighbor to the left, to the left, to the left, okay? So I'm going to circle it because that helps me. Okay, so now I've done number 2. Now I need to decide, is it 4 or less, or is it 5 or more? 5, 6, 7, so it's more than 5, okay? So that means I need to raise the score, meaning I need to raise what's in the tens place up 1, okay? So instead of having a 6, I'm actually gonna have a 7 because 7 plus 1 is, or 6 plus 1 is 7, okay? My 5 stays the same because it becomes before my tens place. And then my step 4, roll out some zeros. So everything after my tens place becomes a 0. The digit switches to a 0. So what is 567 rounded to the nearest 10? Well, it's 570. And one way to think about that is 567 closer to 570 or closer to 560? It would be closer to 570. Now this one I want you to do with me, okay? So go ahead, write the number 1,609, pause as you need to, okay? And I'm gonna round this to the nearest 100. So that means I need to find the hundreds place. So go ahead and underline the hundreds place, the digit in the hundreds place. I just did mine and it is a 6. So you should have underlined the 6. So we already did step 1 just by underlining the digit. Now I need to look to its neighbor to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and circle its neighbor to the left. You should probably do the same. Okay, so I circled the 0. And then now I'm going to look. Is 0 4 or less or 5 or more? Well, it's 4 or less, right? Because nothing is definitely less than 4. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, you know what? This is less than 4. It's 4 or less. So it could be a 4 in here. So I'm going to let it rest, meaning I'm going to let this 6 stay the same. It gets to rest. It doesn't have to change. I am going to drop the 1 because I need to. You're always going to drop the 1 or the number before. Okay, so I did step 3. Now I'm on step 4. I need to roll out some zeros. So every number after the 6, every digit after the 6 becomes a 0. Okay, so when I round 1,609 to the nearest 100, I get 1,600. Another way to look at it, is it closer to 1,600 or 1,700? Well, it's definitely closer to the 600 because it's only 9 away, okay? I'm gonna clear this. There we go. So same thing, okay? You're going to round 190,873 to the nearest 1,000, okay? So go ahead, do step 1 because I'm confident that you guys can do step 1 by yourself. That's finding the place value. So hopefully you already wrote this out, you found step 1. I'm gonna find my step 1. That's my thousands place. So I have the digit 0 in there. okay? And then I'm gonna look at its neighbor to the left, okay? So I am going to circle, and you should be doing this as well. Okay, so now, is 8 4 or less or 5 or more? Well, 8 is definitely more than 5, so I need to raise the score, right? So I'm going to raise my score, meaning I'm going to change my 0. My 0 needs to be have 1 more. So what's 0 plus 1? Hopefully you said 1. I'm going to write my 9 and my 1 because they stick with it because they're before that. Okay, now I'm ready for step 4, roll out some zeros. So every number after the thousands place, every digit, sorry, after the thousands place needs to become a 0. Okay. Another way of thinking about this is 190,873 closer to 191,000, or is it closer to 190,000? Well, 800 is pretty close to that extra 1,000, so that is how I know. Okay, now go ahead and try to do this one all by yourself. I want to see how far you can get. So you're going to pause right now, and you're rounding to the nearest 1,000 as well, so that stayed the same for you, super nice. And you're going to see if you can round this number. Go ahead and pause. Now, I'm assuming you already paused, you're ready to go. So I'm going to tell you the answer. Well, I'm going to work with you through the answer, okay? So that's step 1, find my place value. Step 2, circle its neighbor. Step 3, 4 or less, 5 or more. Well, it's 4 or less, right? Because it's a 3. So that means I need to let it rest. So my 6 stays the same. I'm going to drop my 1. Step 4, what am I doing? Rolling out those zeros. Boom. That's my answer. Okay. Let me clear this one. Again, I want you to try to do these 2. So go ahead and do this first one right here, and then pause the video, do the first one, and then come back. Okay, so hopefully you've done this, and hopefully you found that the given place value is the 10,000s. So I need to find the 10,000. So I'm going to go ahead and underline that place, right? Because that was my step 1. You should have it written down. I know it's no longer on the screen, but you should have this written down. Okay. Then I'm going to look at its neighbor. That's a 3. Is it 4 or less or 5 or more? Well, it's 4 or less, so I'm going to let it rest. I'm going to actually write my answer down here. I'm going to keep my 9, okay? And then everything after the 10,000s place becomes a 0. So I should have got 940,000. I know this looks like a 6, but it's actually a 0, okay? Go ahead and do this one. It is super tricky. Okay, so hopefully you tried this one, okay? So I'm gonna write it out actually like this first, so that way you can see what I see. So I need to find the hundreds place, right? There's no hundreds place, so I just underlined nothing. And then what I want you to do is put in a 0 because nothing is the same as 0, right? I'm gonna look at its neighbor. Its neighbor is a 9. Is 9 5 or more, or 4 or less? Well, it's 5 or more, right? So I'm gonna raise that score. My 0 is gonna become a 1 because 0 plus 1 is 1. And then everything after is going to become a 0. Another way of looking at this is 99 closer to 100 or 0? Well, it's definitely closer to 100, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and clear. Now, here's what's gonna happen, okay? You're gonna do our learning target. You're gonna round some multi-digit numbers to the nearest given place value. Make sure you pay attention to the given place value because otherwise you're going to get confused. So you're looking for the nearest 100, the nearest 100,000, and then the nearest 1,000, okay? So go ahead and you're gonna solve all 3 of these problems. Make sure you keep your work. So you might wanna use your notebook, okay? You need to keep your work so that way you can show your teacher, because once you're done solving these problems, you're actually gonna come onto Zoom and check with us, and we'll give you a thumbs up or a maybe thumb sideways, or you need some help, okay? If you need some help, we will do a small group with you so that way you aren't getting behind and you're staying on track, okay? If you have any questions, please ask myself or Mr. Davis.